What is up, y'all? Paige Kuhn and Adam Kramer here from the No Punts Allowed podcast, and welcome to the college football rankings presented by Modelo. Full-time fans like you deserve a Modelo. Please drink responsibly. And tonight, a big responsibility is on the College Football Playoff Committee because we are getting the first college football playoff rankings of the year, and we will bring those to you as they are announced. But Adam, what is so important about seeing these rankings each week and these ones that we start off with in the first week?
Yeah, for starters, this is entertainment, right? This is fun. Okay,
Yes.
go back to the first time we did this with a 14 playoff. Mississippi State was the number one team, right? So we got a long way to go. But what this does start to tell us, Paige, is how does the committee feel about certain teams, about certain resumes, about certain conferences? More than anything tonight, I think the talking point is going to be what conferences is the committee like? How different is it versus the AP poll? I'm thinking exclusively right now about the ACC, right? Maybe the Big 12
Yes.
to a certain extent, because these are the conferences that are going to be vying for some of those vacant playoff spots when it comes down to it. So we got a long way to go, of course. Huge games coming up as soon as this week, but we'll start to see the data points kind of unravel a bit, and there are going to be some very, very big differences between the top 25s we've seen.
Yes, absolutely. And I think we know because we've done this show quite a bit. We do the AP poll show. We know the chat is largely full of ball knowers, but we do have to
Always.
do a little bit of a refresher on the college football playoff, the format of it. It feels like you kind of shake off the cobwebs and go, okay, we're out of the AP poll. Let's move into college football playoff rankings. So, a refresher that there are the top four Power Four and the top group of five conference champions automatically get in. And then the next seven teams are the highest ranked after that get into the college football playoff. Now, this year, we have a little bit of a difference. Last season, we had the top four conference champions make it into the playoff, but also get a first round bye. Now it is straight seeding, and 1 through 4, no matter their conference affiliation, get a bye. Why do you think that's significant, and why do you think the change sort of came about?
First off, nicely done, because I remember doing this show a year ago. We're trying to piece this together. We saw the unevenness of the bracket last year. If you're an Oregon
Yes.
fan, you know what we're talking about. But so ultimately, this is the right way to do it. This is a cleaner exercise for the teams. It's a cleaner viewing exercise. It's really rewarding team success. Conference championships do matter, but the success of a team and a season should be rewarded in the form of these buys. In the instance of tonight, by the way, Paige, it's going to be a little top heavy, right? We're not going to have to get in some of the other conferences, I believe, at least that we're talking about. We'll find out for sure. This is probably going to be 4 spots, 2 conferences. So for me, it's a
Yes.
much better way to do it. And I think, again, we're rewarding excellence. And that's what we're setting out to do.
I know, and I think some of the conversation though is going to be around it didn't necessarily work out for a lot of teams that did have a bye. So is
True.
there really a benefit to having the bye? We will see, but certainly closer competition and maybe prevent a little bit of blowouts in the first round of games. But what do you think is the toughest conversation that the College Football Playoff Committee is having this week specifically?
I It's going to be a conversation that we're going to have through the rest of the year. It's Notre Dame. At least that's one of them, right? Because when you look at the resume, to me, we've got a couple of great losses. They've rallied really well since then. So where do they fit in the hierarchy of all these other teams? The thing about Notre Dame not playing in the conference championship game too, when you look at the rest of their schedule, like we're running out of ways to impress the committee. So for me, Paige, that
Yeah.
would be one. And then the other one, it's been a talking point when we've talked about the AP poll show. Where's Miami? Right?
Yeah.
Where's Miami? You've got a marquee win, and we'll saddle this up with Notre Dame. You got a marquee win. You've had a couple of really brutal losses. How is the committee going to look at a team that seemingly has all the pieces, but has stumbled, unfortunately, now 2 years in a row?
Yeah, and I will raise you just the ACC in general. The highest ranked ACC team is going to be interesting because there's a conversation around Georgia Tech and Virginia. And, they both have a similar loss in the team that they lost to, but that margin of loss was certainly different. And are you going to, give Miami sort of credit for what they've looked like and maybe the wins that they have had. I don't know. It doesn't seem like enough to me. So I think the highest ranked ACC team is going to be interesting. The other talking point, of course, is the group of five. I think the American Conference has certainly made it interesting. I know last year we had Boise State pretty much slated the whole
Yeah,
time as the group of five team in. I think there's going to be a lot over the next few weeks that changes this up. Is Memphis in? Who is going to be that group of five team that is in the playoff as of this week? Certainly going to be an interesting conversation. I also think teams that are out that maybe will have a fighting chance to get in. I think about a Texas or that person in the ACC that's not ranked, because I think they only are going to give one spot to the ACC here. So whoever is sort of waiting in the wings there, I think another team to talk about is Michigan. Michigan, how
totally.
high are they ranked and how easy it could be to have a big win at the end of the season, which they've been able to get the last couple of years to maybe work their way in. Lots of conference teams, certainly outside of the top 12 this week, will have
Oh yeah.
yeah, a bid to get in, really.
It's not being in now. It is
Yes,
being in
this is not,
position.
this part's not
Texas
important.
fans, I know this is where you plan to be at this point, but you still got a shot. It's a
Yeah.
perfect example for a team that's going to be paying attention to where they're ranked.
Yeah, another part of this, so we are seeing some of the rankings come in. Another part of this is um teams who have, wins against some of the teams that are ranked a little bit lower, but still in the top 25, very significant for their resume. So a team like Tennessee being ranked at 25 is significant for certain members of their conference and allowing them to sort of prove that their resume looks really good. Michigan at 21. Okay.
There you
I was
go.
curious to see if USC was going to be ranked above Michigan. Obviously, the head to head they've got, but in terms of what's in front of them, I think Michigan certainly needs USC to lose for them to have the case, but we will get to more of those. Teams like Vanderbilt and Missouri in the SEC, any thoughts to where they could end up or sort of what's ahead of them that could be lead to them being in the college football playoff?
Well, this is where the cannibalization comes in, and what we're left with a team like Missouri who plays. Wow, look at Iowa. There you go. You see the difference between the
Wow.
AP poll. Big game coming
Hey,
up for the Hawks. Just
like
saying.
like I just said, it
Yeah,
builds the resume of the teams that have
that
beaten them.
but that is a vastly different thing than the AP poll. We'll talk about the SEC in a sec, but that's a 6 spot difference because Iowa, I believe, was the first team out of the AP poll. So you're starting
Okay.
to see some pretty dramatic changes, which isn't necessarily normal. For the most part, there's some differences, but definitely not status quo. To your point, though, conference dominance, cannibalization, Missouri, Texas A&M coming up this week. What does that game mean? Missouri has been so close in even their 2 losses, right? Games they
Yeah.
could have won. So that's where these, a team in the ACC or the Big 12 with 1 loss versus a 3 loss or 2 loss SEC. That's where this conversation.
Wow.
Yeah, there you go. So
Okay.
so Miami,
Miami at 18.
right where they were in the AP poll, which is very interesting because a lot of the projections that I read throughout the day thought they'd be ranked higher. I think this is appropriate. No, I mean,
Yeah, I mean, those people are not the smartest because I don't think that Miami should have been ranked higher. But I also there are going to be at least one or two ACC teams ranked above. There we go. Okay, we got Georgia Tech right there at 17. Interesting. Okay.
So now we start to track with the ACC, where is Virginia going to be? And so when you talk about the top 12 and a team outside the top 12, outside of a Memphis who doesn't look like they're getting in, right? We assume
Yeah.
is going to jump into that. So we've got, potential, leaders in the conference. There's Vandy, which to me is an appropriate and plenty of respect there. I thought Vanderbilt last week, even defeat, obviously always very game, came back and made a go of it versus Texas. There's Louisville as well. So
Louisville.
ACC is stacking teams up right now, just
They are.
unfortunately outside the top 12.
It's gonna well, and it's gonna be chaotic for them. All right, Virginia right there with them at 14. So they will, I'm assuming, get in
Yes, that will
to
be.
the bracket. But to your point, where's the group of five here? And are
You
they
know, you
doing
know
it
where the
based?
group of five is, and this is not new. You want to talk about some core frustrations that I've had, and we've had, others have had. The group of five, and this is not usually respected. Just but like there's no other way to say it. The group of five
So
team
did
is
they just put them at 12 in the rankings? Because before we had it where they could be ranked anywhere, and then if it just moves them into the bracket.
yeah, yes, you're right. Like normally with Boise State last
Yeah.
year, we just plugged them in and we moved on. Although Boise
What?
State was, of course, the recipient of a nice
A little
hefty
ridiculous.
ranking. No more this year.
I do want to talk about Utah for a second because Utah is in the toughest spot, which is actually so annoying. We talked about this on the AP poll show. Their head-to-head losses are against the two teams in their conference are going to be ranked above them. They do, in fact, play each other this upcoming week in BYU and Texas Tech. But to get into the Big 12 championship game is going to be really tough. And it's a bummer that this Utah team is going to be left out likely. They would need a lot of other things to happen for them to get in, but very frustrating on that front. So Oklahoma at 12.
You look, Oklahoma is deserving of it. This is a
Yeah,
gauntlet of a
they've
schedule. The question is, can they stay in it? And this is gonna surprise some folks. I'm curious what the chat thinks of this. Obviously, the head-to-head have
Texas.
the advantage, but
Yes.
that is a pretty significant difference. Well, not that different from the AP, just a couple of spots. But I think from a reputational standpoint, Texas has done a lot to kind of close the gap from where they started and where they are now. It's pretty
This
remarkable.
th- Texas did what you basically need to do for the college football playoff. You need to have a huge game against a big opponent the week before the rankings come out so they have recency bias and don't necessarily think about the struggles. Yet they've still won games, of course, and have the record to be here. But I'm sure the chat is going to be really frustrated by
It's
this.
Texas. We're always frustrated. And if we weren't frustrated by that, then here you go. Here's Notre
Yeah,
Dame.
yeah.
Right? Like that is a polarizing resume. But to their credit, they've won. It's just now you get into the point. What is the Miami like? How are these losses, these resume pieces look? Losses, wins. Is Texas A&M stay rolling, right? Because that's good news for Notre Dame. This is where what we're getting right now is an incomplete evaluation, but there's some fascinating, I think, points the committee is trying to make.
Wow, Notre Dame. Well, we had them at the beginning of the season, and I say we collectively, us, maybe not us fully, but the chat certainly loves to hate on Notre Dame and leave them out of this. They're getting in as of the first week, but I am interested to see how the rest shakes out here.
It's pretty
This
familiar.
is,
A couple of years in a row at Notre Dame. Last year
yeah,
worked out
right.
okay, by the way, in terms of the early loss. So Notre Dame has found a way to kind of game this system. Let's say it. Like they don't play in a championship game. They play some tough teams early. They win the games they're supposed to, unless they lose to Northern Illinois. And again, I wouldn't change much. There's Oregon. It's got a really tough game coming up. I keep saying it against Iowa.
Oregon
So Oregon right
at
now,
9.
I do wonder. Okay, this is an interesting point. The win over Penn State, right? In that moment, it was a significant win. It felt like one of the biggest wins
Yeah.
of the year. They have an interim coach. Penn State just got clobbered by Penn State or Ohio State, excuse me. So it doesn't look as good as it used to. And you look at that resume. I was doing this today. It's not tremendous. It really
It's
isn't.
not. It gets better the next few weeks.
It
I mean,
does.
we after their loss to Indiana, I think the conversation really shifted to you just got to win out and sit out of your conference championship game and take care of business. It doesn't mean it's an easy path in the Big Ten. I know there's been a lot of talk about strength of schedule and which Big Ten teams you play and things like that. But I do think there is going to be a little bit of, I don't know, testing over the next few weeks for Oregon, more so than there has been in the first couple.
Oregon, by the way, 6 in the AP poll, 9 in this. That's a pretty significant difference, right? I
Yeah.
know it's only 3, but that gap is huge.
I mean, it shows you what the committee thinks of that win over Penn State.
It
It
does.
shows you that they're really taking all things into consideration. All right, we got Texas Tech and BYU right next to each other,
So
which will
B,
be sorted out next week or this week.
yeah, so BYU right now gets the edge. Texas Tech in their matchup on Saturday is a double-digit favorite. So something's got to give this week. So BYU getting a lot of respect, by the way, Paige, from the committee. I feel like all
Are
week.
they?
Yeah,
Are
I
they?
think so. I think
No,
this is
because if they were getting the respect they deserve, they would be over Ole Miss because their strength of record is actually better than Ole Miss. So,
well, yeah. I mean, like, look, we've talked all year.
well,
You and I like this BYU
undefeated,
team.
one loss. I know
Vegas
the one
Vegas
loss
feels
comes to
the
a team
same
ranked
way.
above.
Yeah, yeah. Either way, BYU can kind of solve all that this week because,
You
and
think
that's
that if they get a win over Texas Tech, the committee would actually move them above Ole Miss?
yes, I will guarantee it. 100%
All
undefeated
right.
team. Yes,
Hey, it's
bet,
we have the
bet.
recording of
Yeah,
this,
yeah.
so we can play it
Never,
back next week when
never
hopefully
been
that
wrong
happens.
before, ever.
Georgia there at 5, Alabama at 4.
Okay, so Georgia, who like doesn't blow out anybody, but just finds a way to win, is going to be an interesting evaluation. And then
Texas A&M
I
at
think
3.
we kind of expect now for this to follow the path, unless they do something truly shocking here with Ohio State and Indiana. But A&M locked into number 3, and then it's an all Big Ten top 2. Got to be Ohio State, right?
At the number 1 spot.
Yeah, yeah. Like we could say there's drama here. This would be shocking if
By by
Ohio
the way,
State is number
I
1.
just want to note that there were no group of 5 teams ranked in these first top 25s, and if that does happen um in the final
Uh,
rankings, the committee just selects the best
yeah.
conference champion.
Yes.
That is wild.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Just
Memphis, right? Like let's but kick it into the
maybe.
year. Well, is it North Texas? Is it?
Hey,
There's a lot of teams in contention right now, and Memphis has got a really tough game. But group of fives, this is tough sledding. So there you go. We've got our 25 teams. Iowa, to me, oddly enough, is the one that kind of stands out most because it's such a departure from the AP poll. We'd have to look in terms of the biggest variations in rank. I mean, that might be it. That's a 6 spot movement. That's huge.
yeah. And I mean, that again is a testament to how the committee views the Big Ten. And I know, again,
Yes.
I mentioned it before, there was a lot of conversation last year with Indiana and their schedule. And, if they played a tough team or, they got the easiest version of a Big Ten schedule and all of those things. But it shows that they have the respect for it. But also, weird on the flip side to that narrative, Oregon in the number 9 spot in that Penn State win, not looking as,
Now,
significant as it was before.
I can't help myself. We're looking at the buys going in, and we got a lot of football to play. But
Yes.
there is an Ohio State, Indiana Big Ten championship game potentially on the horizon. That is like just a massive potential shakeup to the entire bracket. Like, what does the committee do if both teams are undefeated? You've got the extra game as we're seeing some of these ones plugged in, right? It's a really interesting component to this, and it's all a product of this new format.
Yeah, it is. And just so you guys know, they don't reseed. I know that was a conversation that possibly that was going to happen after the first round to avoid maybe some overlap because we are doing the straight seeding. There is no reseeding in the next rounds to avoid those things so we can get those matchups. But you know what? I don't mind. If you're going to win
No,
a national championship, you got to go through this system that we've created, all right?
there it is. There. So, what are your? I mean, there's a lot of thoughts, I suppose. Um, but you're right. The group of 5 team just kind of having to plug their way along and make their way in is really interesting dynamic to this. Boise State was not an accurate representation of
Of
what the
how this
normal
goes.
group of 5 life is going to be.
Well, and to all the haters of the fact that a group of 5 team gets in, you're welcome. They're not being ranked in the top 25, so you can argue your case that, it's we shouldn't do it this way and shouldn't have that automatic bid is maybe valid this year. Is there a team that we're maybe not evaluating? But again, we do need to pay attention to the fact that we'll see how the game shakes out. I don't know that Memphis and Georgia would be particularly close now, just looking at it initially.
Yes,
Um, but like an Oregon Texas Tech would be awesome. Like
that's
I'm not gonna lie to you, like that.
that's a
That's
fabulous football game. And
yes,
by
it
the
is.
way, Ohio State on the other side of having to play like a really good team, right? Like they were that team last year, losing to Michigan, getting in. Now, that in terms of the portion of it of the bracket is absolutely fascinating.
Yes. Now, Kramer, it is time for fan favorite presented by Modelo, where we will each give a top contender and a sleeper for the national championship out of the 12 teams in the bracket right now. You have the floor first.
I'm going to take chalk, and I can't help but take chalk. I will take Ohio State. I have spent the week as my contender. I've spent the week kind of diving in to Ohio State's excellence, right? And you look at the quarterback completing like 80% of his passes. You look at the defense allowing less than a touchdown per game. Outside of like running the ball page, Ohio State has done everything. And you can knock the competition. I get it. That's fine. I look at the receivers. I look at the offensive line. They've allowed 3 sacks. This is a team that is legit. They're the favorite. I'm not saying anything and nobody already knows, right? So let's just get it out of the way. They are my contender. Look who they have left before potentially Indiana. It's Purdue, UCLA, Rutgers, and Michigan. Look, we can't just get past Michigan. It's been a problem. It almost cost Ryan Day his job. They have to find a way to win that game, but it is, to me, the most talented team in the country. For my sleeper, we need to start talking about Ole Miss, not where Lane Kiffin's going to be, but Ole Miss as a threat to win the national championship. They made a change
Okay.
at quarterback. The offense is cooking. The defense has shown signs. I was really impressed in the game at Oklahoma in the rain. Page defense stepped up in that one enough. Yes, the game against Georgia was a problem, but as long as Kiffin is in, and doesn't it feel increasingly more like maybe this is not the given that he's going to leave? I feel that way. Either way, I think Ole Miss offensively is a problem. If they could play enough defense, and the rest of the regular season schedule, I think is pretty favorable. I think they got a shot.
So I will say, I think we feel that way because I think that's the way Lane Kiffin wants us to feel because he does
Of
not want any
course.
distractions while his team is in the college football playoff as of right now. And we know last year that was the goal, fell short of it. This is very exciting for them the first week, of course. But my contender, I guess to be not on the same side of things. I took Indiana, and this Indiana team has proven that they're better than last year's team. They lead the nation in average scoring margin, and the team that did that last year, by the way, Kramer, won a national championship,
Not
the one
bad.
from the Big Ten. So not bad. And they have one of the best defenses in the country, and their offense can beat you in multiple ways. And to quote the Heisman hopeful Fernando Mendoza, when you take away our pass game, we'll run for 370 yards down your throat. I will take the boys in Bloomington. That gave me very Kurt Signetti vibes, by the way. It seems
It
he's rubbing
is.
off on them with that quote. So my top contender is Indiana, and then my sleeper. I think this is going to be controversial because they're not even the highest ranked Big 12 team, but I will say it, Texas Tech. Their one loss was by 4 points without their starting quarterback. They've had some injuries. But I think on both sides of the ball, we've talked a lot about how much they've spent on their team, which, by the way, is not more than any other team in these other conferences, the SEC and the Big Ten. Teams are also spending the same amount as Texas Tech. However, it's happening in the Big 12, and they've done it the right way. They've really plugged in where they've had needs. They didn't go get a flashy quarterback. They've been loyal to a guy. He actually revealed this week that he was loyal to them, that he had the chance to maybe go play other
Yeah.
places. So I'm going to give them the credit. I think they maybe get a big win this week and prove that they are, in fact, the favorite in the Big 12. But I think a lot of the narrative has been around them for sure being a playoff team. But in the national championship conversation, it's like, well, they're from the Big 12. I don't think they physically can compete. I personally think they can. So giving my hat tip sleeper team to the Big 12 and Texas Tech.
Two things. As a Jets fan and fellow Jets fans out there, Fernando Mendoza, get to know him, right? We are in draft mode after today. And then with Texas Tech, I'll say this. Let's play the game and say this is a team that Ohio State would potentially play. That's a team, to your point, physically can stand up to Ohio State. This team is built with stars on both offense and defensive line. I love the way they compile that roster. Quarterback has got to stay healthy. And that was a position of depth. And now they've lost their backup, who looked really good in Hammond. But in terms of just physicality, like they are a real problem. I love that pick.
By the way, the chat is going off and I absolutely love it. Chat, we need your help. We are going to give some grades to some of these matchups that we have. So if this was the college football playoff that we were, set to have, although this is definitely going to change. We know that because there's lots of football to be played. But if this was the bracket and these were the games that we had to be subjected to watching, oh man, kill us. We love this. We are going to go through and rank some of these based on what we think would happen in these games. And I want to start maybe with a game we haven't talked much about, but a Notre Dame BYU.
I would give this game for me, it's an A- game. Like this is a really interesting game. Mobile quarterbacks. I like this. I'm compelled, and I can't help. I can't help but think of like what would the spread be? What would the sports book say about this? I imagine Notre Dame is a 4.5, 5 point favorite. I'm gonna do it, Paige. So, but still, it's a compelling
At
game.
BYU.
Well, yes, I think so. I think so.
That's one of the
By the way,
better environments in all of college football.
it is. It's a great environment, but They love themselves some Notre Dame. And I'm glad you brought that up because we're talking about the format. Huge advantage. Seeding is a big deal. Getting in is fine. Seeding, buys, but also home field is a huge deal. We get the best atmosphere in all sports. We get it for the playoff.
Yeah, I will give this a C ranking, but I will or grade, but I will say for
Wow.
BYU specifically, well, because I think there's better matchups.
So
For
you can hand out A's. You can
wow,
don't
F
be that
boring.
teach.
People
Yeah,
look
don't be
at
that teacher.
F boring.
No, no. Well, it's
The
Notre
chat
Dame.
thinks this game's gonna be boring. Are you kidding? What
It's
side are you
Notre
guys
Dame.
on? You
But
guys,
shout out
wait,
to the
wait,
chat.
wait. No. Everyone thinks it. Okay, you guys sit here and say Notre Dame is overrated, 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 and then now you're taking their
Well,
side and saying this is gonna be boring
this
and a blowout by Notre Dame. Come on, guys, what is
it's
happening?
it's actually a amazing poll distribution here. There's just we got a lot of takes flying around, but
Yes.
the Notre Dame
Okay.
haters, you've been heard.
But I will say, in terms of seeding, and to your point, BYU is certainly a team that wants to win this weekend because they want to be as highly ranked as possible and get a home game, um, if possible. If they win out, do you think they would be considered in the top four? Sorry, not to throw that out there to you.
No, no, no. I think there's a chance, but I think there's a lot of work to be done first, for sure.
Wow.
I'll get people mad.
Okay. Next, we've got Virginia and Ole Miss. This one I would give an F.
Boy, I don't want you as a teacher. Like it's the first rankings. We gotta have a little bit more. I'm gonna go C minus.
Yeah.
Get watching Virginia just kind of skate by against Cal and against everybody. Like shout out to them, by the way. They've done an amazing job. But this is a double digit spread and it might be a blowout. But we're not giving out D's on the first day. Like this orientation page. Like we gotta not
Okay,
scare everybody
okay, sorry.
away.
Soften my blow. By the way, I do want to answer a question that's been in the chat of how come Oklahoma, that is ranked at 12, is not in the bracket. It is because the group of five one group of five conference champion gets an automatic bid into the playoff. They are not ranked this week, so we are going
Right.
with Memphis, who would maybe be the closest out of those
But
top 25
by
rankings.
the way, the chat has spoken here on this game.
F. They're with me.
Yeah, yeah,
See, okay,
yeah.
we can
All
give
right,
out Fs
fine,
this time around.
fine, fine.
Oregon, Texas Tech, A plus, A plus 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 plus. That would
Now
be an excellent football game at Texas Tech.
I want to see. Can I'm going to give it an A. I want to see after this week, though. I'm saying Oregon's got to show me something this week. We'll say both these teams got to show me something this week.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair.
But I think Texas Tech has already shown me something. I still give it an A. This is a massive matchup and a lot of NIL money being spent in this game, right? So somebody is going to be really mad. But these are two teams that really know how to work the current college football environment.
I already said it. We need to stop saying that, mass amounts of NIL money are being
It's
spent by
why
Oregon
is
and
this a
Texas Tech.
negative? It's just fact. These two
It is
are two of
fact,
the
but
biggest
I mean,
spenders.
Ohio State,
Sure.
Alabama, Texas A&M, they're spending lots of money. Indiana, though you may not think it, their budget is probably a little bit smaller. It's probably going to have to be a little bit bigger now that they're keeping Kurt Signetti around.
Yes.
And that's fine. And it will be easier to recruit there and all those things. I know some people
Here
are,
we go.
saying lose it out. See, the chat agrees with me. This would be a great game.
It's no, I think Texas Tech
A
in this
plus.
game, by the way, he's probably favored by a touchdown right now. Like this is a legit Texas Tech team that Vegas seems to love, and so should you. You do. Everyone else. Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
well, I
I know.
also will say the committee giving, credit to the Big 12 in this situation is actually really impressive. I think
Well, they're giving credit
slightly
to
worried.
Texas Tech. Like
Well, and BYU, they're,
a bit.
they are. I mean, they're both ranked above Oregon. So, I mean, that is a huge deal.
No, it is true. They have, and then the rest of the conference it's a tough evaluation, right? Because these are teams that came in with a lot of buzz and have kind of played all over the place. So no, a ton of respect right now. What will happen to the losing team is a really interesting part of this because you know what I mean? How much movement is there? If BYU loses, then they're favored to lose. How much are they going to drop? That's going to be really interesting to see.
Yeah. I want in the chat some to drop if you see a team in 13, I guess 12, also you can count Oklahoma in that. A team that is outside of this bracket right now that you think could be in the bracket, the last and final college football playoff bracket. If you're looking at that, Kramer, is there a team that you see in that bottom half that you think could make a run?
I mean, I'm just looking at. I can't get over like the ACC is such a unique
Oh, it's a mess.
that I sort of would start there. because these teams got to play their way out. Georgia Tech just gave up like 1 billion yards. I know this was a team you liked a lot, and they're great. Their quarterback is good. Offense ain't the problem. But I think that collection of teams is really, really interesting to me. And I like, we got a long way to go there. What about USC? Right? And I know
Yeah,
I have not been the nicest when it comes to talk about Lincoln Riley. I'm trying to put that aside.
to say the
They have an
least.
interesting couple of games coming up. The schedule's not all that easy, but I think for USC, it kind of works in their favor, right? So that's a team that if they continue to win, I think is going to shoot up the rankings. They play Iowa, they play Oregon, right? Like these are their schedule's legit. None of those games are. I think Iowa's at home. I think they go to Oregon. Like these are two games they can absolutely
Yeah.
win. So in terms of like what they have left, I think USC has a chance to really impress
Yeah, I mean that is a possibility of them being in. I think Michigan also has an
for
opportunity.
sure.
Like I said, if you win out and you beat Ohio State, you're gonna get yourself in. I think a 10-2 Michigan is gonna get themselves in.
You have been saying that, by the way, to your credit,
Well, because I thought they weren't
since
gonna lose to
July.
some of the games that they've lost, by the
Yeah.
way.
No, but they could get in. Ohio State obviously is going to mean a lot, but for sure, they've got a chance. And then I don't know what we do with Vanderbilt, of course, which has always been game. Like there's a subset of teams in there that I think if things shake their way, they have a good chance to get in.
Someone said, who is the ACC champ right now? I would actually go, ooh. It wouldn't be Virginia for me because Virginia's played way too many close games and needed overtime to beat too many teams. I would go Georgia Tech just because, oh God, that's hard because Louisville I do think is really impressive, but I would go Georgia
I
Tech
would
right now.
probably go Louisville. I
Okay.
don't feel good about it. I don't feel good about
Yeah.
anything in the ACC. Like, think where we are in the ACC after 1 week, right?
Yeah.
Florida State looked like the team. Clemson, of course, no dice. It's been a really interesting, is one way to say it. But I think that is the most interesting. Maybe not the most talented, clearly not. But in terms of content, there's a lot to unpack there. And whoever can find their way, you've got tiebreakers page, by the way, getting into the conference championship games, these huge conferences that are going to play a factor in this.
Yeah.
There are so many elements to this that are going to play out, not just this week, but here, really come decision day.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Also, just a note too, I guess looking at the bracket that we didn't really mention before was that Texas is technically out because the ACC is ranked lower than that top 12. So that's so odd to look at. This is the nature of the playoff with the ranking itself and the bracket. Those two teams being left out. Texas, though, probably if they win the rest of their games and squash the
Oh,
narrative that they're not a team, I mean, they're going to be high enough to be in and
oh
out
my
of this
God,
position.
Georgia and Texas A&M, right? Still left.
Yeah.
So, you play at Georgia in a couple of weeks. You play A&M at home. Um, Texas will probably be favored against A&M, or it's going to be close. Georgia, who knows, right? Every Georgia game is a mystery at this point, but winnable games, right? Arch is looking better. The defense, I think, when they're not playing up a ton of points against Vanderbilt, I thought played a really good game. Defensive line, I thought was great last week. There's life in Texas, which is really odd, consider where the conversation has been for the
Yeah.
most of the year. But it's a team that's played their, way into this conversation.
Yeah, in the chat, someone said you need a master's degree to figure out this system, which is very fair. It
Better
is
than
true.
last year. Better,
It is, it
better than
is,
last
it
year.
is. But again, the not having a group of five team ranked really
Yes.
threw me off. That is wild. It's not something that I anticipated. I really did think that we were going to get at least one at the bottom, at least at 25. But interesting.
Yeah. And what? Because Memphis was ranked in the AP poll. Okay, they were 22.
Yeah.
So not out, not clearly not
I
in those
wonder,
top five.
okay, so here's a thought though. I wonder if, because the committee gets to select this regardless, I wonder if AP poll voters just know that they need to put a group of five in their top 25. So they've just been ranking one and wherever they collectively fall is where they are. Um,
And
I feel like that's probably what it is
well,
happening and why the
by
difference.
the way, so for next week too, teams to consider because Memphis plays Tulane, right? And that is a legitimate game. You've got James Madison who got votes in the AP poll. San Diego State, North Texas has looked really, really good offensively. South Florida, who is one of the stories of the early part of the season. While they were not ranked in this poll or in the AP poll, you have some teams that I think are lingering. And
Yes.
as to other teams drop out, and they will, that's when they'll have a chance to get back in.
Yeah, and I do really quickly want to go over some games this week that could impact next week's rankings. BYU, Texas Tech, obviously the big one. I don't anticipate there will be a huge fall for the team that loses that. Texas Tech having a second loss would certainly be interesting to see where they place them. But if they win that, those two teams are going to stay in this. The other one that we're not maybe talking about is Navy Notre Dame. I know it's at Notre Dame. I know, Navy's looked good. They did snap their 10-game winning streak against North Texas, but I don't know, maybe potential,
You
maybe to
never
make the
know.
haters, maybe to make the haters love it, the Notre Dame haters that always say they're overrated.
It's the spread is about almost 4 touchdowns. However, this is a weird sport.
You never know.
Weird things happen for sure.
I don't think we thought Miami was going to lose again before we got
Well,
to the first rankings.
some of us did. Just
I
saying.
thought, right, one loss. Yeah, I guess.
No, and
But
like LSU, Alabama too, right? This is a game
yes,
to me that, and college football fans has been near and dear to them, and it's produced some doozies. The spread's almost double digits. LSU has fired everybody and started replacing them and figuring out who their next coach is going to be. Still a talented roster. I think the fact that it's in Tuscaloosa is a big deal. And then Georgia, Mississippi State, like again, another fascinating road game for a Georgia team that just refuses to blow anybody out, but really knows how to win. And the spread in this one is single digits as well. So is Georgia going to finally really get it going? They're winning, so credit for them, but they've played with fire. And this Mississippi State team at home, we've seen had some pretty big successful moments.
all right. Well, it'll be an interesting week. Any other parting thoughts, Adam, before we head out? We appreciate you all hanging out with us. We do enjoy doing this show every week, and we will continue to have these rankings every single week and talk reaction to them. But anything this week to leave the people with?
So when Iowa beats Oregon,
Okay, okay.
where are they going to be ranked? Right? Just saying. When Iowa beats Oregon, and next week we could start and say, "Wow, look at this." I'm curious. Are they going to go up 5 spots, 10 spots? We're going to
And
see.
if BYU beats Texas Tech, do they jump Ole Miss? Are they
Yes,
actually going to do it? Does the
please.
committee take them that seriously? Well, like I said, we do appreciate you all hanging out with us. The chat is always really lively. This has been the CFP Ranking Show presented by Modelo. Thanks, guys.